Hey everyone, so this is my first video. I'm doing this for Let's Talk Intersex. And my name is Martin. I'm from England and I was born in 1981. And within 3 weeks of being born, the doctors noticed there was something wrong, quote unquote, um, because I wasn't urinating from the right position. Um, I had some tests. They gave my parents the option of operating or not. Um, but my parents had to think about it, and when I was 3 months old, they transferred doctor, and the other doctor said, "No, you have to operate." So I had my first operation when I was 3 months old. Um, Obviously, I don't remember it, but I subsequently had another 9 operations, most of which I do remember. Basically, my childhood up to the age of 11 was spent every 18 months or so um, going to hospital, having operations, having catheters, having tests all the time, people poking me, taking my blood, um, checking that I was working properly. I was told, because my parents were told, that I was a boy that needed repairs. Um, so my whole childhood was basically taken up by that. I couldn't play with boys at school because I was having operations in a delicate place, and so I couldn't play sports. I ended up not playing with girls. Um, my parents decided to send me to dance classes, which I liked, and I'm very grateful for because now I can dance. Um, but this kind of all these things kind of told me, you're not quite a boy, you're not a girl either. You're a boy that needs fixing, but you can't socialize with boys. So everything that was going on around me in my environment was telling me that I wasn't a boy and I wasn't a girl. Um, so I had a checkup when I was 11, um, and they said uh, they would leave any more surgeries until I was developing through puberty, to see what happens and what kinds of gender characteristics I would show. I guess you should say sex characteristics. Um, all of this time I had no information. I didn't know even the name of my condition, my so-called condition. Um, when I was 15, I had a checkup, during which time the surgeon, who had been my surgeon since I was 3 months, decided to check me for sperm, which meant doing things which I didn't know at the time he didn't need to do. Um, he was complimenting me, telling me I developed very well. I'm a normal boy, um, but at the same time he was injecting me, um, and taking photos, um, getting me to masturbate, and he ended up doing that for me. Um, he did it again when I was 17, um, and then he gave me another operation, which I didn't really understand. I wasn't told why. It was just aesthetic. He was just trying to make me look like a regular boy. Um, I was completely asexual. So when this thing happened when I was 15, I had no idea. I'd never done anything. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know it wasn't medical. When I was 17, I was still like that. I didn't have any idea, but I was uncomfortable. You know, it it was clinical. And it resulted in some sensations which I'd never had before. Um, and I basically spent my late teens and early 20s confused, and I started to become a sexual person and started to notice what it what the doctor had done, and I realized there was something wrong. But it was told to me that it was a medical procedure, and all of growing up, I was used to being poked and checked and tested and having all these things done to me. So I didn't know the boundaries. One day I switched the television on and I saw that he was had been arrested and was in court for molesting his patients, all minors. And I decided to go to the police and tell them that either way, if I'm helping or I'm helping to prosecute or I'm helping to defend him, I want to give evidence because I needed answers too, and I wanted to know, is this medical or not? So I think as an intersex person, I was subjected to this lack of control of my sexuality. Uh, I couldn't, I didn't know my gender. My first sexual experience was in the context of my body as an intersex person being violated. Um, these violences that happen to intersex people, I've noticed. I don't know an intersex person that hasn't had this happen to. I also didn't know an intersex person until I was 27 and the court case happened. Incidentally, he was found not guilty in the criminal justice system of the UK, but we have a General Medical Council which found him guilty. And I have pages and pages of the report from them detailing every single thing that I said. And it kind of basically matches what all the other patients said. And they found him guilty of sexual misconduct and also of unnecessary medical procedures. He was called Dr. Bracka, Bracka. And he tried to go to America to carry on practicing, even though he cannot in the UK. It's a dangerous person. But yeah, this lack of control and lack of choosing for myself. I've been in situations where people say, "When was your first time?" And once I said, "Oh, do you mean consensual or of my own choice?" And everyone looked at me like, "Do you have to ask that?" And I realised, wow, yeah, I do. I remember when I was 17, 18, my mum asked me if I needed to tell her something. And I said, the first thing that came to my mind was, I don't know what gender I am. I, I'm not sure. I don't think that I'm a boy, but I don't think I'm a girl either. And I don't know what to call myself, and I don't know um, how to express myself. And I was always really aware of my behaviour, and I was called a few names in high school sometimes, and I don't know why. And I never told anyone about my operations. I didn't tell anyone that I was dancing either. It was very pressure to behave as a boy, and I come from an area which is very hyper masculine. The difference between men and women is very pronounced. Um, and yeah, my mum said, "Oh, that's okay. Um, Maybe it's to do with your operations." And I never read about it until I was 23. And the first time I looked at the diagrams, I was very overwhelmed, and I still am when I look. I had things inside my body that girls have, and I'm not supposed to have. Um, and it's kind of scary because we're brought up to think, you're a boy, you've got a beard, you've got your shape, and you're you're a boy. Your genitals say you're a boy. You have to behave like this, and to see on a screen pictures of who I was when I was a baby, and see that there are things there that boys don't have. They call this condition. They call my condition a mild intersex condition, but personally, I think it's not a condition, it's a difference. And I find the spectrum from male presenting to female presenting to completely in the middle, let's say, of the binary. I find the spectrum of intersex difference to be fascinating, and I'm really happy that I'm in touch with other intersex people, and I'm calling myself intersex, and my worldview has changed so much since I took that doctor to court, and since I started learning about myself as an intersex person. That's a pretty long video. There's much more to talk about. I'd love to hear people's feedback, people's responses, share stories, get to know people. Okay, thank you. Take care.